Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. It feels like a while since we've been with you. Even when we miss 1 week, it feels like it's been forever. It feels like it's been a long international break, but reality really hasn't been. It's only been 13 days, and Atlanta United getting back to work Friday night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Orlando City as this stretch run to the playoffs really gets going on Friday. And it's been an interesting 13 days, Jason. There has been other action in MLS, even with Atlanta United not playing last weekend. But I am really, really excited to get into this next stretch of matches. By next Saturday, Atlanta United will have played 3 different times.
Yeah, we've got a couple of matches before we're back on the next countdown to kickoff. I mean, it's been a minute since Atlanta United's been in action. I think that time after the poor result against Nashville will help them. And I'm curious to see what it looks like on Friday. Now, there's a lot of particulars about the Orlando match that we'll get into today. But I feel like this team, with time to train, with the bulk of the team, not everybody, but the bulk of the team, Gonzalo Pineda really getting to settle into his new digs, to settle into his new job, I think Atlanta will look a little different. How different? Don't know yet. But I think they'll look a little different now that Gonzalo Pineda has been able to put his stamp on things on the training pitch.
Well, we know they're going to have to look a little bit different because there are going to be some players out on Friday night. We know for sure Ronald Hernandez and Joseph Martinez because they're playing Thursday night in Paraguay. So it seems awfully unlikely that they would be able to make it from Asuncion to Atlanta in the span of 24 hours and play. But they are in World Cup qualifying for Venezuela. And how about Miles Robinson and George Bello both getting the start Wednesday night in Honduras, and the U.S. men's national team right back on track in World Cup qualifying with a 4-1 victory. Miles Robinson played all 270 minutes for the U.S. men's national team in their 3-match window.
Yeah, I'm not expecting to see Miles in an Atlanta kit on Friday night. 270 minutes in a week is a lot, and they were a very productive 270 minutes. I think Miles Robinson was maybe the player, along with Matt Turner, along with Ricardo Pepi, all from MLS, who established a new order, I think, at his position group. Miles Robinson was the guy in the back for the U.S., and I think he's the guy going forward. I think he's the first name on the lineup sheet when you get to the October games. So steady, so smooth. A lot of things that we've seen over the years here in Atlanta that I think a national audience is finally starting to understand about just how good Miles Robinson is. Bello didn't appear in the qualifiers until this one, and he played 45 minutes. He played the first half. I thought he was all right. That's a tough debut for George Bello on the road in Honduras, a really difficult place to play. Anybody that you talk to who's experienced it, it's tough. It's the pitch is tough. The humidity is tough. Honduras as an opponent is tough. Bello could have reacted a little bit better to, I think, a mistake from John Brooks. John Brooks opened up the situation for Honduras' goal, overcommitting in a spot where he really didn't need to. Bello could have reacted a little bit quicker. He didn't. It's his first qualifier in this scenario. But outside of that moment, George Bello was very solid, very good, and he's going to get many more World Cup qualifying call-ups to come. Bello and Robinson, two players developed here in Atlanta, really a bright future for the U.S. men's national team going forward.
Yeah, and I like what you said. There were MLS players, not just for the U.S. men's national team, but really all across this qualifying window in CONCACAF and even in other parts of the world had played very, very well. Mm-hmm. Sebastian Lletget, who scored Thursday night for the U.S. men's national team, another example. So I know it feels like it's been a month, but it has only been 13 days since Atlanta United last played. As I mentioned, we're getting into a pretty critical stretch of the season now. We're starting to run out of matches. So just to reset, here's where things stand on the Eastern Conference table coming into this weekend. Top 7 will make the playoffs. As you can see, Atlanta United is 3 points below the line right now. DC is a team that they will play next weekend, so they'll have an opportunity to make up some ground. They have a match against Montreal coming up. They have a match against Philadelphia coming up. They have a match against New York City coming up, and, of course, they have a match against Orlando on Friday. So I know some people will cringe at the phrase control your own destiny. But in reality, Atlanta United does, in fact, control their own destiny to get into the playoffs.
100%. They're playing the teams in front of them. I mean, that's literally controlling your own destiny. You take care of business, beating the teams in front of you, Atlanta United will be in the playoffs. They have work to do. And we'll see what happens this weekend. They could be level on points at the end of the weekend with DC, with that final playoff spot. Wins are the first tiebreaker, and that's something that, with all of the draws that Atlanta United has accumulated this season, it is something to keep in mind when you're watching that table evolve over the next couple of months. Wins are the first tiebreaker in these situations. So Atlanta's probably going to need to not pull level, but to pull ahead on points with whatever spot they're trying to get to. And I don't think, as we looked at that table, I don't think you can rule out hosting a playoff match. That is in play as well. It's really in Atlanta's hands. And I'm excited to see Gonzalo Pineda's effect on this group with that in mind. They control their own playoff destiny because of the schedule and because of the run that they've been on before that Nashville loss. Now they have to take care of the business in front of them.
Yeah, and the margin for error is a little bit slimmer than maybe
is.
they would like right now. But it's all in front of Atlanta United, and it really does start Friday night against Orlando. Now, while the first team has not played in almost 2 weeks, it has been a very busy couple weeks from the proving ground, including the second team, Atlanta United 2, going to Indianapolis over the weekend and getting a really hard-fought win in difficult conditions out there in Indiana.
Yeah, a couple of difficult results for the Twos recently, and this was one where their backs were against the wall a little bit, and the conditions, I think, made it even more difficult. But a player who has stood up for the Twos all year long, stood up again in a big moment, and that's Aiden McFadden. This is the goal that I thought should have been up for Goal of the Week. I thought McFadden should have been on the USL Championship Team of the Week. That is a moment, and in games like this, where you need a win desperately to stay in the playoff hunt, you see what it means to this group right here with that reaction. It's an outstanding goal, but you need guys to step up and show up in those moments. Here's a better look at this from McFadden. Caleb Wiley, good work out on the flank to get the cross in. It's headed away. Get it under control, hit it off the half volley. That is a difficult skill to pull off. Aiden McFadden made it look easy there. Outstanding. Outstanding goal and an outstanding moment. The Twos go to Indy, get the win, and now they're in a really good spot in that Central Division. And they come home here very soon. They're at home on Wednesday. They're at home again next Saturday. Next Saturday, another doubleheader day. You want to go ahead and mark that one down on the calendar. You can watch the first team against DC, make the trip up to Kennesaw, and watch this really fun, exciting second team that Jack Collison's leading.
Want to give a shout to Brandon Lamb as well.
Yeah, Brandon Lamb was really good in this game, and this is something that we're seeing right now because of the nature of the youth schedules. The group that was there at the first half of the season, the guys who were finishing up the end of their high school run, graduating, somebody like Will Riley, for example, who's on to Stanford now. When they go, that opens up a door for academy playing time at the USL Championship level for a guy like Brendan Lamb, who was interacting with the first team a lot in preseason. Lamb's a player that is very highly thought of, and he was the man of the match in this one. For a teenager to go on the road and deliver the performance in the middle of the park. We see teenagers a lot of times up front. We see them at times in goal. We see them at times out on the flanks. But to be in the heart of it, to be a central midfielder in the USL Championship, it's a very physical league. Brendan Lamb is showing more and more that he is ready for that next step. And you've got a number of academy players playing for the Twos who are beating down that door on MLS time coming up. Maybe this year, maybe next year, maybe a couple years down the road. But Lamb, Wiley, quite a few, Mejia, showing their performances that, hey, when guys move on down the road from Atlanta United, because it happens, it's just part of the future of the club, there are players being developed in-house who will be in position to jump into those spots. It's exciting to see. Lamb has really put himself forward as one of the top academy players at the moment.
Well, speaking of the academy and those players who are being developed in-house, it's been a busy couple weeks for the academy program and a busy weekend to come. But last week, they were able to take some time at Mercedes-Benz Stadium to have their annual academy dinner, at which Gonzalo Pineda, the new first-team head coach, and Jack Collison, who's done a great job with the second team, they both had an opportunity to speak at that dinner.
Looking into your eyes now and seeing you young guys with everything that's going to come, three things. Buckle up, be ready for the ups and the downs, enjoy every single moment. I say it to my guys all the time because it's gone in the blink of an eye. So make sure you enjoy every single moment, the good times, the bad times, and especially the great times. And then the last thing from me always said, if you play for the badge on the front, they'll remember the name on the back of the shirt.
I envy you a little bit because I can close my eyes and remember when I was 13 and I first joined my academies, Pumas in Mexico. And the experiences that you are about to learn, the experiences, the team efforts that you are going to have to put, the relationships you are going to create with your coaches, with your teammates, are something that is fantastic in my memories. And I envy you a little bit. So enjoy every little day that you are going to spend in these academies, because it's very important for your development as not just as players, but as human beings. So I wish you all the best in the future, not just as soccer players, but as citizens in the future. Thank you very much.
Incredible for these academy players to have two guys like that to learn from and to be, coaches they'll interact with while they're in the academy. I mean, we've talked about Lamb and Wiley and Mejia and all the academy players who are playing for Jack Collison in USL Championship, but I think it should also be known that these guys are going to get into first-team training sessions. They're going to work under Gonzalo Pineda's direction, and what's exciting is to have two guys like Collison and Pineda who went through this. They came through academies at their first clubs and stayed with those clubs and know what it's like for a 12, a 13, a 14-year-old who might be a ball boy, might get an opportunity to watch a session. Then you go out and you watch their games when they're young kids, and to see the Gonzalo Pineda's watching me play and I'm 13 years old. Wow. That effect, and then they get invited to a training session and they get feedback. It creates this cycle of development that is so important. And I love what Jack said about playing for the badge on the front of the shirt. People will remember your name on the back when you do that. It's such an important element. And I think now that we're 5 years into the academy, 5 years into the first team, we're seeing all of the work put in by everybody who's been here to create that culture. It's paying off. And guys who now are going to get those opportunities to continue to move up and thrive in the organization. It's just so exciting to see the involvement. I mean, to see Arthur Blank at the academy dinner and interacting with these young players who are wearing that badge as young as 10, 11 years old. You're creating something that we've never seen in the city. And really, we don't see in every city in the United States. It's incredible. And you're going to see more, George Bello stories of guys who come to the academy, guys who, become MLS All-Stars, guys who become U.S. men's national team players, playing in finals, playing in qualifiers. There's more to come. This is just scratching the surface of what this academy is going to produce.
Absolutely. Exciting times for everything on the proving ground right now, from the second team all the way on down to the academies. Okay, let's check back in with MLS now, because there were a few fixtures this past weekend, 9 of them, as a matter of fact. Let's take a look at the results from this past weekend on which Atlanta United did not play. I would never have predicted LAFC not only beating SKC, but on a 4-0 scoreline. That feels like a really big one for LAFC. And Nashville, again, asserting themselves at home with a 3-1 win over New York City.
Big win for Nashville. I think a big statement win for Nashville, as they are a team that can win the Eastern Conference playoffs and can win MLS Cup, in my opinion. Portland, a big bounce back for them as things start to come together again for Giovanni Savarese. Can he keep that together? We'll just have to see. Vancouver has won 4 in a row, even with a coaching change in the mix. Real Salt Lake, after a coaching change, they get a win at home against Dallas. And I don't think you can discount Miami either. Miami went to Cincinnati and got a win. They are one of the hotter teams right now in MLS, and that's somebody that Atlanta is ahead of, but they have to know that the teams around Atlanta in that Eastern Conference table, Miami's one that is as hot as anybody right now in MLS.
Cincinnati in kind of odd form, too. They have not played very well at home this year. They're going to come into Mercedes-Benz Stadium Wednesday night. Cincinnati's actually been better on the road than at home. But you're right, Jason, absolutely. Miami getting warm here at a pretty good time for them as they try to climb the Eastern Conference table. So with that in mind, here are the fixtures for this weekend in MLS, which all starts Friday night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium with Atlanta United and Orlando City. And we'll preview that match in just a moment. But what strikes me about this week, Jason, is you have a lot of teams that are very close together on their respective tables. Like, for example, Columbus and Miami. That's one that actually has some playoff implications in the East right now. Nashville, Montreal, 2 teams above the line. DC above the line, Red Bull very much near the line right now. So there's going to be a lot of shuffling, I feel like, on the Eastern and Western Conference tables this weekend.
This is a great schedule this weekend in MLS. You've got a lot of really compelling matchups. Obviously, Atlanta, Orlando, 2 teams that don't like each other. Vancouver on a great run right now. They have an opportunity to add to that at home. Colorado, LA Galaxy, 2 of the top teams in the West. Colorado has to be considered one of those. They're in second right now. They can potentially win the West, and this is an opportunity for them to make a statement on Saturday afternoon. Seattle back to the top of the West. They get Minnesota coming to town. Minnesota's got to stand up a little bit now. You know, this is an opportunity for them to show that, yeah, we can battle for the top of the West like people expected coming into the season. New York City's got to bounce back. They go to New England. They've got to bounce back after a bad loss in Nashville, a very bad loss. You've got the Red Bull DC rivalry, another set of teams who do not like one another at all. Really compelling schedule, and I think also keep an eye on LAFC. LAFC has 2 games over the next couple that are winnable for them, and LAFC had really been in a tailspin. They get that resounding win over Sporting Kansas City that nobody saw coming. Home game with RSL with an interim manager. Did win last week, but that is a game where LAFC will be favored and should win. And then they get Austin in the midweek, and that's another game where they'll be favored and they should win. LAFC could, climb back into this Western Conference playoff race when a lot of people, me included, didn't think that was going to happen with their form and with Diego Rossi leaving the team and headed to Turkey.
All right, this Atlanta United-Orlando City match is going to be very fascinating Friday night. I think a big part of the storyline is who will not be playing. We talked about how Joseph Martinez is in all likelihood not going to be able to make it back for Atlanta United in time. Miles Robinson, hard to imagine now how he could play. Orlando's down to their 3rd goalkeeper, Mason Stashdahar, who played against Atlanta United at the end of July. He's hurt. Pedro Gallese on World Cup qualifying duty with Peru, so he's out. Could be Adam Grinwis playing in goal for them this weekend. Junior Urso is out on yellow card accumulation. Alexandre Pato, who hasn't played a whole lot, he's out as well. So both teams are going to be shorthanded. Both teams are not going to be at full strength. Unfortunately, though, Jason, for Atlanta United, Daryl Dike, who's playing a lot better, and Nani are available for Orlando City.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about who is available for Orlando and what they did in their last win against Columbus, because it was a mixed bag in a lot of ways for Orlando against Columbus, a team that had gotten a win, but a team who has been really struggling and is nowhere near 100%. Just look at this from Daryl Dike. Strength, skill, and what a finish. Into the roof. You're not making that save. Nobody is. It's power. You get that goal from DK. Then you get the interplay and you get Juan out on the right side and just how difficult he can be. Great ball played in, Poor defending from Columbus. Orlando looks like they're cruising at this point. They're up 2-0. Looks like nothing to worry about. It's that guy Vandervader again. Got to watch out for him. Orlando could have put this game away. They should have put this game away. It should not have ended up close, but it did. Defensively, there are some issues here. That's a bad own goal to give up. You're dealing with instability at the goalkeeping position, and Gillespie is in the same situation that Joseph and Ronald Hernandez are in about coming back from South American qualifiers today. It's going to be pretty much impossible for him to be part of this. They miss him. That's another one where you look at the goalkeeper, and it's like Gillespie's probably making that play. He's probably taking command of the box on the first sequence. Orlando had to fight for this. They did. And what a finish to get the 3-2 win from Junior Urso. However, we won't see Junior Urso here in Atlanta. So this game had a little bit of everything. I think it showed some of the challenges that you'd have to deal with when you face Orlando. The power of DK, the quality across the field from so many attackers. Vandervader is a player who terrifies me. But it also showed some of the frailties of Orlando. And I think those frailties right now start from the goalkeeper position. When you have this, this kind of change going on. Gillespie away on national team duty. Stajduhar gets hurt. You're down to number 3, who I think had left the organization, was brought back. And Grenwis, it's difficult. It's very difficult because that permeates through the defensive group. You don't have the same voice behind you calling for things, saying this is mine, or explaining what they're seeing in terms of marking and who's open. You don't have that. It creates some indecision, and we saw it on that first goal, that own goal. This is something Orlando's going to have to deal with. This is something Atlanta's going to have to really put them under pressure to expose that issue. Orlando's going to be difficult to defend, but Atlanta can make themselves difficult to defend against Orlando. And I am curious to see how the Lions deal with the loss of Gillespie. They're also missing, in addition to Junior Urso in the midfield, Sebastian Mendez. So 2 midfielders who bring a ton of energy in that midfield, a lot of fight, a lot of personality. Who's going to step up there, and can they get the leadership they need in the back? Atlanta has to try to exploit those 2 gaps for the Lions.
You talk about some of Orlando's frailties. I think one of their big frailties consistently over the last 5 years, when we have seen them, has been their inability to close matches out. Mm-hmm. And we thought, Jason, back in late July down in Orlando, they finally figured out a way to close out a match. Because remember, they did get 2 late goals from Vandervader and Nani to beat Atlanta United 3-2. Atlanta United had the 2-1 lead going into, I think the final 15, might have even been final 10 minutes of that match. I can't remember off the top of my head. But you saw against Columbus, Orlando did not have an easy time closing out that match. So it almost feels to me like Friday night, if Atlanta United can hang around going into those final 10 minutes, if they can hang around, they might be able to get something positive out of this match.
Yeah, the mental strength of Orlando City has been something that's been questioned over the years. I think Oscar Pereja has put in a lot of work to change that. We saw it firsthand in Central Florida earlier this season. They showed that they were mentally strong enough to handle some of those moments of adversity that in the past, frankly, they weren't. But they're not 100% consistent in doing that. They're not 100% stable in showing that strength. This is a game that's a difficult one for them as it is for Atlanta because of the absences. The questions for me coming in on the Orlando side, we've talked about. On the Atlanta side, it's how do they try to exploit those situations with Orlando? What do they do up top without Joseph Martinez? Gonzalo Pineda talked about it this week. Is it Jackson Conway? Is it Kubo Torres? Is it a false 9? Is it a Luis Araujo playing up top? And if he does, if Barco plays up top, do they stay up top, or do they drop into the midfield to create overloads against a midfield for Orlando that is missing pieces? How does Gonzalo Pineda identify the areas that he can attack and exploit, and what does he do to make that happen? I can't wait to see this lineup tomorrow night, and I can't wait to see what Atlanta looks like trying to take advantage of some of the openings that are available for them in this match.
A lot of options for Gonzalo Pineda, even though he will be managing a shorthanded group. This all plays into my prediction, by the way. And I did technically get a prediction correct last time.
Technically?
Because I got it right. There's nothing technical. I said Atlanta and Nashville would not play to a draw, which they didn't.
Correct.
I was kind of hoping Atlanta would be the winning team. They weren't, but it was a correct prediction.
Correct.
My prediction for this week is that Atlanta United will score a goal after the 80th minute.
Oh.
And it goes into what I mentioned just a moment ago. Orlando City traditionally has had trouble seeing matches out. I'm not sure if this would be a game-winning goal. I don't know if it would be an insurance goal. I don't know if it would be an equalizer. But I predict Atlanta United will find a goal after the 80th minute on Friday.
That's a good one. I like that. I think this will be for the neutrals out there, not anybody watching this show, of course, but the neutrals out there, I think, will be entertained by this match. That's pretty much they typically are in an Atlanta-Orlando game. There's always something going on in these matchups. For my prediction, it's a little tough because the lineup is a big question because of those absences and because of getting to know Gonzalo Pineda. How does he see things, and how does he see this group, and how inventive can he get with moving the pieces around that we haven't seen yet this season? With Rob Valentino and Gabriel Heinze in charge making those decisions. Gonzalo Pineda will make his own decisions, and they will be different. And I don't know exactly where they're going to be yet. I do think Atlanta will be a team that controls the possession in this match, and I do think they will be a team that outshoots Orlando in this match. I think they will have more of the play. So my prediction is that Atlanta will have twice as many shots on target as Orlando in this match. I think they will really feed off of the crowd. I think they will look at that goalkeeper situation and that shaky back line at times. At times, I think more shaky right now because of the goalkeeper situation, and really look to get forward a lot. I think we're seeing Luis Araujo starting to dial up that long-range shot. I think Marcelino Moreno has done that. And I think Ezequiel Barco will really create some good opportunities for himself and for others. So I think shots on target, Atlanta will have twice as many as Orlando City on Friday night.
I think you're very smart to put that qualifier on it that it's shots on target. Because it's a little more difficult to have twice as many shots.
Very difficult.
As I learned in a prediction about a match in Columbus a couple weeks ago. Shots on target. I would have been right if it was shots on target.
I pay attention.
Okay, so when we're next with you on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff next week, not only will we wrap up this Orlando match, and not only will we wrap up the Cincinnati match, which will be played the following Wednesday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but we'll have a preview of what looks to be a really important match, dripping with playoff implications on the Eastern Conference table next Saturday when Atlanta United hosts DC. So a lot still to come as we continue through the season here on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. But as for this week, 7 o'clock Friday night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta United and Orlando City. You can watch it on FS1, and you can listen to Jason and I on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. We want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week here on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff.